The 2021 Australian Fitness and Recreation Industry Technology Summit is on in Sydney on July the 21st and 22nd. And it's Australia's first major face-to-face event post-COVID. And don't worry, we have an exclusive COVID guarantee. And that is, should any COVID restrictions stop you from attending, you will receive 100% of your money back, or you can transfer your registration to 2022. Now, this year, we've already brought to you some amazing webinars. Ted Vickery on using technology in our industry as a whole, Jonathan Weiner on using technology for marketing, Annette Franz on using technology for retention. And these can be all viewed for free at fitnessindustrytechsummit.com.au. In addition to these webinars, we have, of course, the day and a half full of amazing presentations. And I'm excited to say this year we have 2 workshops, one on improving your organic SEO and one on building your digital marketing strategy. You will genuinely walk away this year with takeaways. Plus, of course, we have our awards ceremony with the inaugural Technology Awards and a keynote from Amanda Stevens. So you can register right now for just $3.95. That's our early bird offer, $3.95, and you can get that right up until the 15th of May. Now, on to today's incredible guest. Our guest today is Markos Kern, who will be discussing shaping the future of fitness and sports with physical gaming. Now, there is one super strong community that was not impacted at all by COVID. And that was online gamers. Online gamers have great adherence to their activity, amazing retention, and a community that we in our industry can only dream about. So when putting together our program for the Tech Summit, I wanted an expert in fitness or sports. I wanted someone who understood the gaming community, and I wanted an expert. Not somebody who said they were an expert, but somebody that was regarded as an expert by their peers. I put all of this into Google and Markos came up. So he has great organic SEO. For almost 2 decades, Markos has been in the creative field, using a holistic approach and deep expertise to realize extraordinary ideas and unique solutions. This is what makes him one of the best experts for innovation and creativity. And these skills, mixed with technology, let him start his business, Fun with Balls, an adventure that is shaping the future of sports and will contribute substantially to providing a solution to the problems of our society, the society that's living in a digital era, particularly the younger generation. So Markos, before I hand over to you, all Australians are dying to know, is your business really called Fun with Balls?
Yes, and the reason why we called it is to answer exactly that question. So it's just an attention grab.
I was wondering if it had got lost in translation and it was actually meant something else, and then you went, oh, it's a great name, and I guess it really shows the importance of what you're going to be talking about today. So over to you, my friend.
Thank you so much. That was a fantastic introduction. I'm just going to copy and paste it to use it as my CV, I guess. Thank you so much for having us. And yeah, like you said, the topics that we're going to go through today are a broad selection. They all come under a couple of very, very important terms, which first of all is attention. The second is obviously change, disruption, digital, and also gamification, how we can improve sports and fitness to be much, much, much more attractive to younger generations, but also the average Joe of today. So my background, as you mentioned, is actually in advertising. So I started my career many years ago when I started my first company, which was called Visual Drugstore. So there we basically focused on very, very, very cool projects. Like we did amazing stuff, always driven with technology, always in the event space, obviously connected with marketing, because that's where the dollars came from, but always with the approach of creating something immensely outstanding, that tags into people's brains and just has a certain message stick with you. It went from fashion shows, club designs, concert shows, even to like gigantic facade projections. It always had a very, very strong life element to it. And the reason why we focused on it that much was always we wanted to create this outstanding wow moment. It worked really, really, really well, and I had a lot of fun. At some point, because we were quite successful with it, there was a little bit of a crisis. And at some point I just thought to myself, okay, so we're creating these amazing experiences and we have this gigantic following and people like applaud us every time we do something cool and crazy. But in the end, we're advertising a new phone. We're advertising that you should now buy a new Mini because the old Mini is crap right now. Get rid of it, buy a new one. The new one has nicer headlights. And it was a little bit so I went on a search and I tried to find out, like, how can I use the powers of innovation, technology, interactive technologies to actually make a difference. So first we started to do some really crazy projects. I come from the art world. So we went to the Sahara Desert. We did like gigantic projections of the Venetian Canale Grande in the middle of the Sahara Desert. I even went to Antarctica to focus on climate change with some research institutes from Germany with an icebreaker going through the icebergs and stuff like that. And I started a surf school in North Korea. Same thing there, very, very crazy situation. Everybody has their picture of this country. We said, we're just gonna go there, we're just gonna have fun with people because after all, there's a couple of million people without rockets there that just wanna have fun. And it's nice to basically get to another country in a different perspective. And then I sort of stumbled upon a problem that I wanted to focus a lot on. And one of the things that I want to mention within this presentation is our perception of change, problems, and how we deal with them. So one picture that I want you to keep in mind is this. This is a very, very classical painting. I'm not going to say who it is and what it is, but remember this picture because at the end of the presentation, I'm going to come back to this picture, and some of you might know, if you're very aware of where art is and Greek mythology, who that is and why it is important. But it is a very, very good metaphor for the fitness and the sports world these days. So the problem that I try to address is basically within this map. So if you look at the percentage of these different countries, some of you might know this map. This is the world obesity map. Obesity obviously being one of the major problems that comes from working out too little. In this case, you see there's a very, very strong trend. The Middle East and the US are obviously leading the way, but then again, most of the other countries are picking up quite fast. And obesity is only one of the little problems that comes with not working out or not having an active lifestyle, but it's a very, very nice indicator because it's one of the easiest. You could also go for heart disease. You could also go for back problems, all these things, but obesity is quite a good indicator, what we found in correlating the level of activity of the general population. One thing that I want to mention within this presentation is a little bit the cognitive dissonance or a little bit the arrogance that we have from the sports world. One thing with all the numbers that I tell you right now, always understand that most of these people watching this presentation right now, we're in the very, very tippy-toppy tip of the pyramid of when it comes to working out and being active. We're not in the Middle East. We're not in the Midwest of the US. We're not in the Philippines, and we're not the average of our population. If I look outside of my window, I might think, hey, everybody's going for a run. Everybody has a race bike. Everybody's doing CrossFit or boulder climbing, whatever. That's my group. I live in Munich. I live in a society where most of the people do well, go into the general average of the global population, and things look really different. If you go to the Midwest of the US, 80–90% never did any sports, never went to a gym, and it's probably just getting worse. So keep that in mind. Whenever I say people are getting less active, don't say, yes, but Bob, my neighbor, and Sally, the neighbor next door, they're all active, so the world's like super active. It's not happening this way, unfortunately. Good. So welcome to today's world. What you've seen the last couple of years is one of the biggest change that humanity's ever gone through. The crazy thing is the change is going to accelerate even more with every single day. So right now, most of the aspects of our modern life completely changed from ground up. We order our food with our phone, we have our bank, which is an app, we have the Uber driver picking us up with a GPS. All these things happened in record time, meaning like the last 10, 15 years, this iPhone here is only like 12, 13 years old. Before that, nobody had a smartphone. So always imagine that evolution is now completely on steroids and things are happening much, much faster. The only thing that we noticed before we started the company is a lot of these areas completely shifted upside down, and everybody's aware of it. Sports, however, fitness, however, shifted a little bit in some very, very small areas, but the general principle is almost exactly the same that it was like 30, 20, 40 years ago. Yes, we have a couple of apps, we have a couple of Facebook groups, and we have a couple of cool trackers. But if you go to a normal soccer club around the world, it's still the same thing. You sign up on a list, you go there twice a week, you run around some little plastic hats, and that's basically it. Even though the problem changed a lot. So meaning sports didn't like pick up with our change of lifestyle, but all the rest did. We have easier access to food. We can lazier travel around. We have easier ways to get our groceries, everything that we want to do, which leads to a massive decline in activity. And it might always sound like a problem that you that is like, yeah, this year signups for fitness studios in whatever went down 3%. Okay, cool, but let's continue. Over a longer period of time, that is a massive problem because this is the tip of the iceberg, which is already shrinking. The below part never did any sports. So the activity level in our society in general is declining, meaning health issues are on the rise. It also goes for discipline. People are not having their social interaction, like all these things coming from that problem of people not meeting, not working out, not doing their sports, is a massive, massive problem that's rising. And it's a little bit like climate change. I had a very nice conversation lately with one of the biggest ambassadors for climate change. And they said like 15, 20 years ago, the topic of climate change was in a very, very small group of very well-informed scientists, politicians, or activists. Now it's arriving in the general public because we notice the problems are getting so bad in our daily life that the average Joe at the gas station is going to be like, I'm not going to buy that thing. I'm going to buy that thing because that has a label and it's more sustainable. We haven't reached that point in sports yet. In sports, we still think it's fine. If the kids don't do that much sports, well, I'm just going to give them the iPad and it's going to be fine. We're brewing a big, big problem, and this is how we intend to basically address it. So let's look at the numbers. The WHO recommends 150 minutes of sports as a minimum per week. It doesn't sound like much, but if you look at it, 223 minutes of average is what we spend on our phones. You might think that's crazy, but now there's a little thing that's going to blow your mind. The 150 minutes are per week. The 223 minutes are per day in average. That is how bad we are at doing something that we're supposed to do, which does us really, really well and actually should be fun, compared to this little thing grabbing our attention. And I'm just going to watch these 2 or 3 cat videos and bam, here's like 4 hours. So the problem is much, much bigger than we might think. And what we did with our company is we realized, okay, if that thing is so attractive and it's so much designed and well organized to tag our brain into spending 223 minutes with little notifications, with little badges, with little like, look, here's a blah, blah, blah. How can we basically turn that around and use it to our advantage? So we had a very, very strong look at all this digital stuff, which also is where we come from. This is what we designed for years. Like, we wanted to make amazing experience. We wanted to make that sticky stuff that makes you do something over and over and let you have fun with it. So we said, okay, how do we transition that over in sports? So we had to look at the problem at first. And so, okay, so first of all, our brains these days are on steroids. If you compare our brain to our brain 10 years ago, to our brain 10 years ago, to our brain 10 years ago, you would see a massive increase. I heard just the other day, I heard something in the 1850, the amount of knowledge that an average person of the world had was one newspaper of the New York Times, like for example, today's newspaper. If you take that, all the knowledge that's in there, that was the overall knowledge that a person had, 1850. Compare that today, plus I know that penguins only mate, stay together for the whole life, and they mate once a year, and they make it. I know more about penguins than probably 1850 normal peasant knew about his own political system. So our brain is basically a muscle, and it grows with how much we use it. The thing is, nowadays we use it an awful crazy lot. So we have access to all information. We have so much details, like even just the amount of passwords and knowledge that you need to have to just run your normal life is insane. So naturally, our brain wants more. Like that's now the new status quo, where our brain feels healthy. And if you look at our brain, we cannot really be mad for some, especially for the young people, that the limbic system, which is where all the cool stuff gets born, the endorphins and all the stuff, is very attracted to the high intensity compared to the low intensity. Meaning if you have a low intensity, like, hey, let's go running. Here's a nice little track. Let's run around that for 20 times, compared to, for example, these guys, if you know them, is obviously a very different trigger, and it's not going to work the way that you might have anticipated when you were young. Because when you were young, meeting up with 25 people and finding out who's the fastest runner might have been a highlight in your day. Nowadays, if you're used to these guys, it's not a highlight. It's the old stuff. It's like riding around in a horse carriage while everybody else is riding a McLaren and a Lamborghini, and they're racing it in Saint-Tropez and they're filming it live with a drone. And you're like, yes, but riding a horse carriage is so nice. So for those who do not know, maybe some of you do, these are the guys from Fortnite. Fortnite is one of the most successful computer games at all. I tried it myself. It's loads of fun, to be honest. It's like everything that you need in a computer game, and the numbers of these players are rising by the millions, as you just mentioned. Good. So before we get into how we can actually learn from this and how we apply this, the rate of change is something that you really have to understand, because this is one of the biggest problems that we found out when we spoke with sports people, is they think that it's like a stock change. Just losing a percentage here and a percentage there and a percentage here might not sound bad. The longer the time, the worse it gets. At the same time, if you look at the other stocks and they're like raising like 10% per week, the comparison, meaning like the ecosystem that you're in, obviously proceeds faster. This is why this chart is insanely interesting for me, and this is something that I recommend everybody to really, really internalize in every move they make. This is how long it took for inventions, ideas, or whatever you want to call this product to reach 50 million users. You have to understand, this is the world that we're living in. Pokemon Go is already 3-4 years ago. They reached 50 million users in 19 days, something that took the telephone 75 years, or the car 62, and so on. Understand that the next big trend might already do that in a third of the time. If you go another 10 years, it might already happen in a day. So always anticipate the world that we're living in. So I'm going to get back to this later on and explain to you why it's so important. So what's the problem with this? Well, the problem with this is that if you look at things that are traditionally very much focused on maintaining a certain point, like for example, sports, that's a bad thing. Because if everything proceeds really fast with our brain, the traditional way that we work out, the traditional way that we play basketball, go on a treadmill, use a rowing machine or whatever, gets boring at a very, very fast rate. Meaning it's not the fact that this sport or this sports hall that I'm showing here got worse. It's the fact that everything else got so much more exciting, so much of a better deal for you to invest your time, that you're just not going to take that deal. So if I download Fortnite, the guys that I just showed you, it takes me about 30 seconds to download it. It takes me about a minute to make a profile, and then I'm starting my first game. And it's pretty cool. And the way that we obviously have the freedom in technology to design a process that's highly, highly catered to making every second amazing while using that game, it's like this is a precision tool to address our endorphins. Whereas a game like basketball or tennis is something that grows over time, and it takes a lot of courage, a lot of discipline, and you have to learn. So it's just a bad deal for our brain. Good. One thing that I want to highlight, now we're getting into this is the second part of the presentation, what we did, why we did it, and then we're going to get into a part how you can apply the learnings, because this is not a product presentation, the learnings of everything that we found out the last couple of years to improve your business, improve your product offering, and actually cater to that yay center, the limbic brain, in a way that people find it amazing again to work out, to be in your community, to come to your location, and so on. One person that you're going to meet a lot, and this person lives in all our brains, is this guy, the grumpy old grandpa. Whatever you want to change, it's going to be work, it's going to be expensive, blah, blah, blah. And these people don't understand. This is the grumpy old guy that says, you know what, back in the days, we used to go weightlifting, and that was so much fun, and blah, blah, blah. Children should just shut up, take their phone, throw it away, and go weightlifting for like 3 hours, or go for a run, or play soccer on the in the park for like 8 hours. That's what they're supposed to do, and stop what they're doing. This is not going to work. No moment ever in the evolution of our humankind, this guy here actually brought us something good, because evolution goes one way. We might go a wrong way and we might turn around, but generally keeping things and addressing people to go back to the old way because you think it's better never, ever worked. It's just, it might feel good. It's an immune system response, as we call it, because we've been obviously innovating the sports tech space a lot. We meet this guy every day. He never won. He might postpone things, he might drag things, but in the end, he has to give up. A lot of times, actually, this person gives up if there's a generation change in federations and sports facilities. This guy just gets replaced by somebody else who's younger, and all of a sudden the problem's not apparent anymore. So in the sports world or fitness world or whatever, we see a rapid decline. There's still some cool areas like paddle or also SoulCycle, whatever, that go up, but the general thing is going down. So now a couple of people might say, okay, cool, but sports tech, that's going to be the solution. Like, hey, cool, we have Peloton, we have Swift, we have all these cool, amazing things that rise exponentially in usage numbers, which is right. And we love it. But also, one thing that you have to understand a little bit, and which is the funniest thing when you compare this to fitness. So fitness now has the problem that the traditional fitness facilities are being challenged by somebody saying, I'm going to do that experience in my home. And one thing that I would like to highlight in this train of thought, or in this way, is why fitness is not sports, and what that means, because now fitness is returning to be sports. And I just wrote a book, hopefully it's going to be out in English soon, about the future of sports. And doing the research, I found a very simple thing. So in the very, very old days, sports as we know it was derived actually from somebody saying, I can run faster as you. And the other guy was like, no, you can't. And people found joy in saying, like, let me prove you wrong. So it actually came from war. So in the very, very old days, Greece, you would go to war and you would cut people's heads off. And then you would say the guy who cut off the most heads, oh, he's the coolest. And then there was no war. And you would say, like, whose heads there's nobody to cut off heads? I was like, okay, cool. How am I going to prove that I'm the coolest guy? So you started to compete to actually prepare for the war. So you said, okay, cool, let's train. Let's take a wooden sword because I don't want to cut your head off. You're also a Greek person. I'm a Greek person. But I want to prove to you that I can do it. And this basically led to what we know as sports, competition, Olympic, running, all these. The funny thing is, somewhere in the 20th century, towards the end, somebody said, okay, cool, this whole sports thing is super cool. We all love shaped bodies. We love, like, if you stand up straight, if you have a nice arm and all that. But somebody said, like, okay, listen, I like that, but I would just like to have the abs. I would just like to have the six pack. I want to go to play lacrosse 3 times a week and hang out. So fitness was born, where we basically took out a certain part, and we want to have that element, the fitness, which normally comes to the sport, and we want to have it in a nicely packaged, smaller version. We only want to spend like 3-4 hours a week. I want to go to a gym, which is around the corner, not travel 2 hours to go to the soccer field and stuff like that. So that's what fitness actually came out of. And the funny thing is, it was convenient, it worked with the time, and it was exactly what we want to have. And it grew to be exponentially important. And gym memberships in the US, if you go through New York, everybody has a gym membership, not necessarily if you go to Iowa, but it worked really well. The funny thing is, what you now need to understand is, the ironic thing is, what people now tend to go back to Peloton, Swift, all these offerings has to do much, much more with sports than with fitness per se. Because all of a sudden, these same people that say, okay, cool, I can go on a spinning bike in my gym. It's like, no, I would like to have a really big group. I would like to do this as an experience together. I want to have somebody in front of me riding with me. I want to have this interaction. I want to show the people that I'm better than everybody else. I want to have a mountain tour on Swift and all these things. So basically, we're coming back to community. We're coming back to experience. We're coming back to, let's do this together and let's create a group of our own. So all these things we took together and we said, okay, how can we now design something that's so amazing that getting over this initial friction of doing it and sticking with it actually gets fun. So our mind is on steroids. This is what we said. So first of all, we need to find a way to optimize the experience and make something that amazing that sports, like working out every day, actually can stay in competition with all the other stuff, with flying a drone, having a Tinder profile, day trading on like all these cool things that you can do with your phones and laptops. Let's make them. So what do we do? If you go to this link, you see a little bit of one of the products we did, multiball.com. What we did is we tried to mix the exact interaction between tech and sports while using gamification and all the amazing tools that come with it. If you look at how incentivizing people works, even with your banking app, and we brought that all together. The essence of what we do is very simple. We have a main philosophy, and it has 3 pillars. And these 3 pillars can be applied to almost every single thing, product, experience, service that you have, especially in the sports world. First of all, you got to update the experience. You got to have a new way of portraying something that is not deemed too interesting in a super cool way. If I tell you, come on, we're going to play tennis, the normal experience is you're going to go to that old guy on the tennis court outside of town, which is maybe run down a little bit. And this 60-year-old guy is going to tell you, okay, first we're going to warm up, we're going to run 3 rounds, and we're going to stretch, and I'm going to show you how to hold the racket, and then we're going to try to hit the ball over there 200 times. Come back next week, let's do that for 3 months. And maybe in 3 months, you're able to do your first little like amateur little match where you're like, hey, this is fun. I can actually play a ball that is bouncing back like 20 times and not like messing up after the 3rd shot. So what we do is we bring in technology, and we're like, okay, let's sort of try to get that sport interaction in a super cool, fun way, while your brain is occupied at the same level, like with gaming, with all the technology side. But hey, look, you're still training, so your tennis workout is not, hey, this guy is going to show you. No, you go to an interactive wall and you try to bounce the ball off just by throwing it in the beginning. And once you made it to level 25, we're going to give you a racket, because then you can go to level 28. And you're going to use that racket, not because you're supposed to learn how to hit a ball. You're going to use it because you need to go to the next level. This is also the Limbic. I'm going to come back to it later. This is the consumer console that we just launched. Second part of our philosophy is lower entry barriers, which is specifically important in the fitness world. A lot of fitness facilities normally come with a lot of, you go in, people might look at you funny, there's no kids allowed. If you use the machine a little bit wrong, people are already giggling on the other side. It's like, oh my God, he's sitting on it. Like, we need to find a way to lower the entry barriers, to just like have very low entry fund. If we do, this is a product that we have in squash. And most squash centers, if you tell them like, let's have kids play in your squash court, they would be like, no, that's for the squash players. Why would I ever have kids play a children's birthday party? Oh, you're insane. But hey, this is how you build your future members. If they don't throw balls around, they're not getting used to a ball. If they're not getting used to a ball, they don't ever anticipate that, hey, I can have the racket to hit that ball harder. If they don't play around with that racket just in a random fun way, they're going to stop with it. So let them play whatever they want to have, and try to keep the entry barriers super low. Have yoga sessions for people who can't even move up and down the stairs. Have children's birthday parties and fitness facilities. For us, this has been a complete game changer, because first of all, it brings in a load of revenue. Second of all, the timing aspect of it is, most of the times when these events happen is something when it's not prime time. So you can use your facility in a proper way to actually get some revenue through the door, which you normally wouldn't have had. And the third thing is, if you get over the thing that sometimes kids run around in your facility, they bring families. These families bring revenue. The moms are probably going to take a cappuccino at your bar while the kids are doing their fun stuff. And the same thing is, if these kids want to come back, hey, that's your future generation of members. These are the people that want to come back. These are the people that are going to be like, hey, now I'm 14, I'm starting to look at the girls. I want to work out. I want to be like the guy in the movie. Where are they going to go? They're going to go to your place. So this is how you build community. And this is one thing that a lot of sports, and especially gym facilities, underestimate, that it all comes again in a pyramid, meaning you need to have a lot of people coming from the bottom to actually feed your community. If you have your community in a too exclusive way, remember, exclusive comes from not being fancy and nice. It comes from excluding people. So if you want to be exclusive, always really, really ask yourself the question, can you afford to send people away if you have a business? And that's something that kids, obviously, I know it's annoying. I know it's not the sexiest thing for a cool fitness facility to be, but think of ways that you can include this. And the third thing is, we try to broaden the use. We try to have people use things for things that are probably completely off. We use our squash systems to train wheelchair kids. We have our multi-balls at retail locations and so on. And everything that's training, retail, event, and education can be done with our things. And you would be surprised how open and relaxed we are when people come here and it's like, hey, I want to buy your sports product, but I want to use it for my office. And I want to use it as an activity board so people get to know each other. Perfect. I'm not going to say like, no, but we're tennis and soccer and fitness only. No, like, open up. Good. And the last thing that we did, and this is a little bit of a mini advertisement, we just launched Limb.io, which is our own home usage. So this is a super fancy piece of equipment that has a lot of sensors. It tracks the wall, it tracks you, it can detect whether or not you do jumping jacks and stuff like that. But this is home application. So now to the more part where I'm going to kick your butt a little bit. I'm known to be a little bit harsh and a little bit too direct, especially because we work with a lot of the biggest federations in the world. And we're basically, think of me like a drill instructor, but I only want you good. I might sound very mean sometimes, and I might sound very harsh, and I might insult you a tiny little bit, but the reason is I need you to move. And I need you to understand where we at and why things need to change in your business. I'm not saying buy my products. I'm not saying, hey, you need to pay me. Not even that. I'm saying you need to play a crucial part to save the world from inactivity. And no matter whether you have a gym in the middle of nowhere or in New York, you need to understand how you can improve your business, because first of all, it's good for you, but it's also good for everybody else in society. So first of all, You need to understand evolution. Things are moving insanely fast. If you're sitting back and you're thinking, okay, we're in the time of horse carriages, and you think that you can still relax and you can make that decision tomorrow and think about next year, understand that things are changing in an instant right now. If you cannot tell me what this thing is, well, you already have a problem. And I don't know how many people actually know this thing. But stuff like that will appear every single time. And if you don't know these things, you're not understanding why people are attracted to these things. There's this FPV goggles of a FPV drone. FPV is fly per view. So you have these and you can fly a drone and you have the same view. It's insanely cool. They have a drone racing league. Like there's so many things. This is something that you put on your head, and then in real time, you can fly a drone with up to 150 kilometers per hour through trees. Check it out. It's crazy videos, but you need to understand this is the way that we roll. Second point, understand youth culture. This is a tough one. The old grumpy dad that we talked in the beginning, that we showed in the beginning, this is where he cringes. It's like, yeah, but they're like all these young, stupid people thinking that you need to understand that. There's no way around it. You do not need to like it, but you need to understand why certain things are attractive to young people, millennials, also older people, and why they work. Because if you only brush it off like you're the grumpy old dad and you think you know it better, well, you're destined to die. No way around it. It's just a question of time. So embrace this, understand it, spend the time, do the work. One thing where I highly recommend to do the work is, if you don't know this app, you should know it. It's very scary. You might lose your faith in humanity. And what it's definitely going to do is it's definitely going to scare the shit out of you where the world is heading to. I'm sorry for using this, but you need to look at this. This is TikTok. TikTok is growing faster than Facebook, YouTube, whatever ever did. Download the app. It's going to be really crazy in the beginning. Then the algorithm is going to pick up what you actually like. But what it does, it's very short videos. It's very, very well catered to making understand what is attractive to the millennial, to the young person, to even older people by now of today. It's fast, it's entertaining, it's fun. If it's not, it dies. The algorithm is just going to kick it out. If you post a video that's not interesting, nobody's going to watch it because algorithm is not showing it. If you have something funny, millions are going to watch it within a day. We had a couple of videos reaching up to 40 million within like 24 hours. Boom. Like we literally almost couldn't use our phone here because people tried to ring us up about the product. But you need to understand why these things work. And also, and that's even more scary for the grumpy old dad, you need to include these people. And that's really dangerous. So you need to look at them and it's like, okay, why do 18-year-olds really like this guy that's like the most, why do they find it so funny? Why do they find it so interesting? Why do they buy GameStop stock because somebody told them on Reddit? You need to understand that. And here comes the really, really hurtful part. You need to trust them and let them decide. I'm not saying like hand your job over to them. I'm not telling you like, okay, and then you need to give all your money to the young people and go home. No, but you need to give them the feeling that they have a certain effect on this. Give them small budgets, cut them in on ideas, ask them what they actually would do. How would a gym look like if an 18-year-old person decides how a gym looks like? It's most definitely not going to be a health club for the 45 privileged old, and this is where we have all our trophies from the 1980s. He's not going to give a shit. Sorry to be that direct again. Ask that person, what is the perfect facility that you want to work out for in the next 20 years? And all the other 18, 20, 25 person. So find that out and really, really go in there, which leads me to my next point, because I'm sorry, it's not going to be easy. If you're lazy, you're wrong. Like, it's going to be work. Like, whenever evolution happens, it always means that you have a higher intensity of calories burns and time spent. Nobody gets a nicer body with just wanting it. Nobody gets a faster lap time with just wanting it. You got to put in the work. So there, the metaphor between fitness, sports, and your business is actually the most obvious, because you're not going to get there if you don't do the training. So if you have a tendency to be lazy or postpone things, you're like, can't somebody else do that? Your chances of really, really making a big one probably aren't this big. One more point is going to be risky. So same with evolution, is like, if you're the bird trying to develop larger wings so you can fly faster, well, that wing might also be the reason why the lion catches you easier. So there's always a certain risk. Manage that well. Nowadays, obviously, the good thing is, with a lot of research and a lot of testing and prototyping and, like, you know, like finding your way slowly, you don't have to ask the 18-year-old how you're going to be designing your gym facility and then just let him go with it. No, you do a little test. You do a little here. Maybe you're just going to paint that wall pink for the beginning and see if people come in and say, oh, that's a cool wall. And then you start renovating and stuff like that. So take it step by step, and you're going to find a good way. One more point, and this is specifically, I love this one. Don't be a fan. In the sports and fitness, also a little bit in the creational world, and by now also in the business world, a lot of people are fans of a certain movement, which means you see something, you like it, and you actually say, hey, cool, I am a fan of this. The problem with it, it blurs your perception. If you're a fan of Arnold Schwarzenegger and you think that guy did it right, well, it might be true. The only problem is you're probably going to be using your gym in a way that it's probably more of a bodybuilder hangout in the 1980s than it is an amazing health facility for the 2020s. So same thing there. If you love soccer, you're probably going to be spending a little bit too much money. You're probably going to be doing a sponsorship of that soccer club with your business, which might not be the financially best decision. But you're like, oh yeah, I get out of it. It's so cool, and I can hang out, and I get these always really, really be neutral in your decisions. Meaning, like, if you're a fan of Peloton, that's amazing. Would a gym full of Peloton bikes work? Probably not. Find your own niche and really, really kick off your own enthusiasm for certain things. And don't let that blur your decision. And no, to come back to the grumpy old guy, you don't know better. By now, I'm pretty sure a lot of people who watch this like, oh, who's this? No. Realize this guy is keeping you from making the decisions that might save your business, let you excel, create the next amazing, cool thing that might happen. Don't trust this guy. We all have him. He's always sitting on our shoulder. Whenever somebody says, like, hey, I bought a different car than you, he's like, oh, you're stupid. Don't let that do that. We're all here to create something better and something more amazing. And you need to be agile enough to cope with this world and the crazy things that are happening every day. Last but not least, ask for help. One thing, we're super active on LinkedIn, and one thing that I found is whenever we needed help, whenever somebody else came to us and needed help, we were helped, they were helped. It's very easy. Once you reach out and once you open up and once you actually take in people that want to help, things get easier a lot. We even have fitness facilities, and they're like reaching out to esports federations and asking them like, hey, can you guys help us make a cool location? Because you guys are exploding. Yes, obviously your computer game, but what can we learn from, how can you help us to be also cool? And they're now doing like combinations where the esports athletes, because they also have to do fitness programs with trainers in their fitness facilities, so their decision making and their reaction time can be improved on a physical level. So always reach out to other people. To finish this off, I want to bring back this guy. By now, some of you might know who this is. This is Narcissus. And it's an old, wonderful tale, and he was the most beautiful guy ever. And he was so beautiful that he was stunned by himself so nicely. So he started looking into the lake and he saw his beautiful face, and all he did was watch his own reflection and fell in love with the reflection. And there's this, I forgot her name, a wonderful lady, and he completely ignored it. And in the end, he drowned because he looked into the blah, 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 and he was like so focused, and like he loved himself so much, and he completely forgot around the world, and he drowned. And why I always love this, because in the sports world and in the fitness world, a lot of the industry is focusing on itself. And the one, if I could give you one massive suggestion, what you should do is never look into your own peer group. If you're a fitness facility, don't look at people going to fitness facilities for being your clients. That's like, you're in your own circle. What you should be focused on is people that never went to a fitness facility. You should be attractive enough that people who don't work out decide to come to your place and become part of the cult. You shouldn't be focused on getting the guy who goes to the fitness facility across the street to bring him back to yours. So next month, the other guy can have a new promotion and bring him back to his. You need to grow the group. You don't need to grow, you don't need to grab people from the other side. So what you need to focus is watch outside. How do you get the people from TikTok picking up a gym membership and being an active member and trying to be healthy and trying to eat well and trying to work out and have a nice body? You shouldn't be focused on the people who already focus on being a good gym goer, on going to your gym. Good. And yeah, this is just something that I always love, because evolution is one thing that goes very, very, very deeply in everything we do in business. You gotta manage change. It's basically, and this, I avoided the pun, is like survival of the fittest, because it's, well, the fittest is just somebody that fits into a certain niche. It's a change manager. That's the fittest. So yeah, that's it from me. Thank you all. And if you have any questions, always feel free to reach out. The book is available in German so far, but we're hopefully going to be, once the bookstore is open again, we're going to have the translation in English. multi-ball.com is where you see a little bit more of the fancy stuff that we do. And like I said, whenever you have a question, whenever we can help, or whenever there's something, even if it's just an opinion or a good chat, feel free to reach out. We're always happy to help. Thank you.
Markos, that was absolutely sensational, and I've lost count of all the really interesting points that I wrote down. I've never actually heard anyone say being a fan blurs your vision, but you're 100% right. And I was actually thinking back to when I had a club, when I had a gym. We sponsored the local rugby team, and I don't think we made $1 out of that. Not, in fact, it probably cost us money because we were buying T-shirts and merchandise for them. Really interesting point, and I love that you really need to be neutral to get a really honest judgment. So thank you for that. I love don't be lazy, understanding the youth. I do have a question for you. With your research and your experience, when you were adding that gamification to the squash courts, as an example with the kids, what impact data-wise did that have on adherence?
Well, I mean, first of all, it was a rocky road, because we picked squash for a reason, because it's one of the most classic and most like not open to outsiders kind of sports that there is. And so we had a very bumpy road. The good thing is, once we started installing systems, the numbers were insane. Like, we almost double the usage of the court, and in some cases we even almost triple the whole revenue of the whole location, just because we first of all bring in other people, and obviously we could charge more. Retention also is a great example, because two things in a squash court: if your partner cancels in a normal squash setting, the booking falls through. In this case, you just have fun on your own, and at the same time you can also invite groups. And so so the general numbers, which I always try to take out of this presentation, because I never like to use this presentation with like, hey, we're so great, buy our products. But obviously retention and ROI are something that we're really, really good at. And gamification it's like sort of the magic sauce. Our brain is wired to play. Everything we do, whether it's asking for a raise at a job, trading stocks, buying a car, it's basically all a game. Our brain is always, what can I win? What can I lose? Okay, that sounds like a good gamble. I'm going to go for it. If you can use that to basically make a game out of your workout in whatever way it is, it can be a community thing, it can be, then you're winning.
Tell me, on gamification, obviously, looking at your product, it was extremely useful for for kids, for the youth, does gamification, or is gamification such a strong asset for adults, 40 plus year olds, 50 plus year olds, 60 plus year olds?
The funny thing is that even with the older it gets, we even see that the curve even gets higher again. So even for 60-year-olds, because there's two elements to it. The one is the win-lose thing. We are very, very, very wired to win. One thing we found in the very beginning, even when we had like partners, investors, or whatever with our startup, we were like, come on, let's try this out. And a lot of people, there's like the guy from the bank in the suit, and it's like, yeah, cool. And like, we want to show you your tech. Let's try it out. Just throw a couple of balls. And they're always like, no, I don't want to work out now. It's like, they try, they see that they do worse than they thought. They're going to try again. And this is like our sports. He's not here in the office today, but if you go on Multiball and you watch the videos with Devin, he's our sports scientist, and he's also a fitness instructor, and he does like amazing workout just with reaction walls and big heavy balls, light balls, or even like 2 tennis balls in the hand. And one of the things is always people watch the video, everybody's like, yeah, cool, I can do that. And then they realize they're much worse. So what are they going to do is like, wait, okay, wait. This one doesn't count. Let me try again. All of a sudden, let me try again, this 2-minute session turns into a 45-minute workout. At the end, they might do it or not, or they might say, damn, I didn't do it. I'm going to come back on Thursday. And even if they manage to reach a certain level, they're always going to be, I'm going to come back, I can do better. Because then you have the global leaderboards, then you have, light just switched off. Then you have all the different elements that remind you of your standing in the global comparison. And it just triggers your brain. And with that thing, we see actually no difference whatsoever between adults and kids. Once you're triggered, and we got you.
I love that. Once you're triggered, and we've got you. Well, you've got us.
In a good way.
Mate, you have got us. That was just a tremendous insight into the psyche of human beings, the evolution of our brain, and just thinking about how we could do things in our business differently, and using technology as an asset in our business to build retention, not to mention sales. So I'm very grateful for your time today. Thank you so much for joining us. I will give you the opportunity to have the final word in just a moment. But just a heads up to everybody that our next webinar will be on May the 28th, and that's with Adam Posner, who is a customer loyalty, rewards, and retention program specialist. He's been in data-driven marketing for over 27 years, and he's going to be talking about loyalty points and how do loyalty points build a thriving business. It's going to be a terrific presentation. So you can register now for that at fitnessindustrytechsummit.com.au under the tab webinars. Of course, you can register for the entire Tech Summit and get your early bird registration at fitnessindustrytechsummit.com.au. Final word to you, Markos. Take it away and finish us off.
Final word, like, it's crazy times. And just like sports and fitness tells you, it's all up to you. If you want to be successful, go work out. Just make a ruckus.
Love it. Thank you, sir.